So if you guys have questions to ask or want to continue some of the in-chat discussions out loud instead of typing them in, now is the time.
I'll jump in, and I just want to say to the last talk, I'm very excited by the potential for AI to help us with a lot of the work that we do, and those lovely vouchering those plant specimens and pressing them. It's also possible to see who chewed on things using AI, and you can often infer from the chewing patterns on the plants who was interacting with that plant. And in addition to, of course, it being a permanent record over time for things like destructive, because it's not just destructive sampling in the chat. I noticed, right, there's also God forbid, but fire, flood, etc. Vouchering becomes it becomes an image voucher, if you will, that something occurred at a specific place at a specific time, and it facilitates more research.
Just out of curiosity, how many people, and I think we asked this in the poll previously, I don't remember, how many people right now actively take plant samples while they're collecting bees? You just raise your hand on the screen, put a +1 in the chat. Photo vouchering.
So I also have, sorry, may I ask a question?
Go for it.
I wanted to go back to make sure I understand about this disposition conversation that's going on. So for me, and you guys need to correct me if I've gone off the rails here. I was thinking about when we have something like tissue samples or things like that, where there's a limited amount of material, like say in a tiny little vial. And somebody contacts you and says, can I have some of that? And you have to decide in the collection whether or not that research and whatever they plan to do with it is something you want to say yes to or not. And at some point, that material is going to run out. And so hopefully, whatever that use is, if they're going to do DNA analysis or protein, whatever, that you're going to get that information back. So it's the same question in a way, if for destructive sampling that we're asking. If all of a sudden you have a record out there in the world that says that it's preserved and it's there, but then how can we help you know that it's no longer there? If that's what's being asked, I think people are cool. I'm not sure, Parker, that it's quote refused to update them, as in, is there an easy mechanism by which we can actually do that? So I think there are other, yeah.
Sorry, it's also a large number, like besides the ease of updating when something's been destroyed, but usually it's like the really big surveys and it's just like thousands of records because they collect millions of specimens. So then there's thousands of records that need to be updated. Katja, you had something?
Yeah, I was just noticing in the chat that a lot of people are vouchering plants using iNaturalist and other imaging techniques. And so I'm curious, do you then link those iNaturalist records for the plants to your specimen data? Or I do that sometimes, although it's kind of onerous to do sometimes. Or do you upload the images with your specimen records, or how do you manage that to keep those linked together? So just maybe the ID gets on the label of the plant, but not linked together necessarily. Yeah, that's one thing that I think I could really do better and could think of a way to do better is actually keep those vouchers, plant vouchers with the bee specimens. And one good reason for making an actual physical museum specimen voucher is somehow I find that easier to keep those records together if there's a physical specimen.
Looks like a couple people download INAT data and link that to their records as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Arctos actually has links back to iNaturalist, and there's also specimen records in iNaturalist. So I think there's a lot of links already in there that just need to get discovered.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing about iNaturalist, though, you can delete things in iNaturalist. So it's not persistent. Things can go away.
Well, you can version iNaturalist. Like I'm doing it, so others can too.
And did I understand Gretchen's talk right? I think I wanted to, sorry, go ahead. What does it mean to version iNaturalist, Jorrit?
Oh, that you take a snapshot of the data that you're using and then putting a label on it and saying, I got this at this time, from this source. Just like you would with natural history specimen, actually. It's just more in the same protocol applied to the digital world. Just, yeah.
So what would that look like? Downloading all of your iNaturalist records and images and zipping them all up maybe and putting them in like a Zenodo publication or something like that, and then linking to that.
Yeah. Or
Just
you
for
can
go ahead.
Oh, you can also take snapshots of the Darwin Core archive that they're producing, if that contains the data that you're using. It doesn't contain all data that iNaturalist has.
I just wanted to mention real quick, since we only have about 6 minutes left, that there are some additional videos we didn't get to play today due to time constraints, but they will all be available on the YouTube channel, and we will email you the links, not snail mail, email. I think there's another question on a very different topic about how do you sort your bee specimens? I'm currently sorting them by different studies, by years, but eventually do they need to be combined into one collection? And there's no manpower to do so, to sort through each specimen each year, no students. Anybody have thoughts and opinions on that?
When you say there's no manpower, no students, I need to know more about like, where is this person and could there be someone who might be interested in?
Yeah, sorry, I asked that
Okay.
question. I think I should probably, clarify. This is really more like a entomology general housekeeping kind of question, because I myself, I don't really have official entomology training. I'm kind of a halfway converted entomologist. And so I was always wonder, just, now I'm only in maybe years 5 or 6 in the bee collection, and then I can still manage the drawers by year, by study. But I can see, 10, 15 years down the road, I probably forget what the early study was. I still have the bees there, I have the label there. Do you guys go over the bee specimen once a year to kind of sort them out and then keep them do you only keep one specimen for one study from that one site, or do you still keep the 100, Lasioglossum of the same species in the same collection? I don't know what to do, for another 10 years of the study. Like, I just want to ask a real entomologist, what's your, and also we're small, liberal arts teaching college. We don't really have that many students, especially no graduate student to keep tracking of this. So what do you do?
Well,
Yeah,
not
there's some,
to answer for everybody, but I think generally it's a little more common to organize specimens by taxon. And then within taxon, often you can then break it down into geographic regions because you're going to have tons and tons of studies through the years. And you're, like you said, not necessarily going to remember what goes to what. You can still have them grouped by study within the taxon, but at least if they're by taxon or geographic region, those are things that are a little more static and you're going to keep adding to them, whereas a project is usually going to be a more discrete unit. But that may not be the consensus around everybody. That's, I know how a lot of the larger collections do it, usually by taxon and then grouped by geographic region and or project within the taxon.
so Iwen, I'm not sure if you see in the chat too, while we're trying to do this, but Link suggested ensuring each one of those specimens has a unique identifier that you could relate to a particular project. So that way you can, if you then wanted to put them together taxonomically, you could still figure out which ones came from which collecting event.
You definitely don't want to lose any information. We have 1 minute left. Last question for discussion, anybody? Oh, and then there's a link for the ECN web. It's got a lot of resources there. Thanks, Jess. And I think there is a button where you can just copy the entire chat too. We can share some of that with you guys later, but if you want to just go ahead and copy what's on there yourself, so you have it immediately, that should be shown.
I'd be happy to talk about TaxonWorks. Y'all join us anytime. And I noticed in Paige's talk, if any of y'all, what this workshop could offer downstream for this sort of data cleaning, data standardization, data tools, there are some OpenRefine and some other tools out there. I know Yort has one in mind. There's global names that could help people with some of this reproducibility and data management, data transformation tasks.
All right, well, thank you all for coming. Huge thank you to all the speakers and my co-organizers. This has been fun, very informative and lots of fun. Thanks, y'all.